Okay, you good?
I like it, I guess.
Arlen on his way down?
No, we have Arlen and Amy.
Arlen's out of town. Oh,
We'll-
Arlen's out
we'll
of
take care of it.
Okay. Out of town. You guys want to slide down? Slide down or just leave it?
Hey, Councilman Winder Newton, do you want to test out your microphone?
Yep. Hello, everybody. Does that sound okay, Shaquille?
Got to be louder, Shaquille.
Can you hear me okay, Shaquille?
Yeah, I just have to worry about feedback, but I think if we go about here and you talk really loudly and clearly, we'll be good.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
We will, when he's on. Larry? The clock what? Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed that my clock is about a minute slow for having you wait for an extra minute. Before I call the meeting to order, let me just say I appreciate all of your attendance here today. This is a very passionate, important topic for our county and for our quality of life and our citizens. And I appreciate the news media and the press coverage here as well. I would ask you all to respectfully, I ask you to please be respectful to those around you. Be respectful to fellow citizens and community friends and neighbors as we go through this process. This is county government at work, and we're here to represent you. And there's a way to go about discussing things, voting on things, and making sure that things are taken care of in the appropriate manner for our benefit as citizens of Salt Lake County. So once again, thank you, and I will call this meeting to order for Thursday, August the 12th, 2021. It's a special session of the Salt Lake County Council. Before I continue any further, I should note that Councilman Arlen Bradshaw and Councilwoman Amy Newton is joining us on the telephone. They had prior engagements, which takes them out of town. So we appreciate them taking the time to join us on the phone. So we do have a complete team up here for you to address this issue. At this time, we'll go to item 2, discussion item, which is a resolution of the Salt Lake County Council terminating a public health order of constraint issued by the Executive Director of the Salt Lake County Health Department on August 11th, 2021 in response to a declared public health emergency. Having said that, I'm looking for a motion and a second to this item.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the resolution as stated.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Alvord and a second by Councilwoman Theodore. Before I call for the question, I'd like to open it up to council for further discussion and comments. Jim?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a substitute motion, if I may, and that would be that we table this resolution today. And I'd like to share an idea that I believe has merit for that purpose. Rather than pass the resolution today, and let me remind people that this body, the council, all right, I will see if this makes it any better. I've made a substitute motion to table this resolution today, and I'd like to explain why I think this idea has merit. Rather than pass it today, I would suggest that we, the council, wait 30, 40 days before we revisit this issue. And what we know is that the Salt Lake County Council can revisit this issue anytime they please. It doesn't have to be today. They can do it 30 days from now, next year, whenever. So we have that right to interdict ourselves into the process at any point. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, clearly, and I think everybody can agree, the Delta variant is quite a different contagion than it was last year at the same time. And we're not dealing with the same type of virus exactly as we were dealing with last year. And by waiting for a period of time and letting the mask mandate take place, we can compare the rate of infection with other states whose schools have already begun their school year maskless. So we would be able to see what would happen if our school district in the Salt Lake County were able to mask for a period of time, a short period of time, and compare that to not only the data that we know exists from last year in Utah and our school. We also know that, you know, the infection rate among that cohort is about 60% higher than it was last year. But what it would do is it allow the school children, have to wear a mask for a period of time. But there are other protocols too that were in place last year that would not be in place this year, and such as the social distancing and the plexiglass between students, half day or half the class meeting one day and half a class meeting the other. Those protocols are not in place this year. The only thing that the resolution calls for is a it is a bit distracting, but that's okay. So anyway, my point is Salt Lake County is in a unique position to be a contributor to the body of knowledge on whether masks work or not. Now, I know there's a majority of the people out here today who show up and would swear to God that masks don't work. They don't make any difference. There's certainly another large population who believe that they do. Vaccinations are, of course, the best way to deal with the virus. Without a vaccination, masks seem to be the second best way. All right, we're talking about children who are not eligible for vaccination. So what would be the harm compared to the benefit of testing this issue on the masks? What would happen if we asked the school children to wear masks for 30, 40 days, whatever we feel is appropriate?
Ladies and gentlemen, let me interject right here. I have to nip this in the bud. Councilman Bradley has the absolute right and authority to speak his mind on this issue. You have the absolute right and authority to have your druthers on it. But I'm going to ask you to please, no catcalling, don't interrupt him, and let's keep this orderly so that we can get through this in the way it should be dealt with. Please.
So
Continue.
Yes,
Jim.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll sum it up here. It's pretty clear what I'm asking. That is that we take a hiatus from passing this resolution, and we do so, we can gather more data, and we are in a unique position to say, here's what you do with masks and here's what you do without. And I don't know why anyone in this audience would not want to know that difference. If you don't care about that difference, that's curious. And nevertheless, I think we are in a unique position to increase the body of knowledge on the efficacy of masks. And we can do that without any great harm to our children, with less protocols that were in place last year, and with a time-limited time that we would conduct this gathering of data. So anyway, that sums up my purpose in terms of providing a substitute motion, and that is that we don't act today on this resolution, that we reconvene in a month or so, and then look at what data we have available to us from this for this period of time, and make a more reasonable decision than we can today. That's simply it.
Thank you, Jim. Now, Ann, you wanted to
Jim's motion.
speak? Yes, go ahead. Are you seconding his substitute? Okay, we have a substitute motion by Jim, and we have a second by Ann. Any further discussion to Jim's substitute motion by council? Seeing none, I'd like a roll call vote on Councilman Bradley's substitute motion. Okay, hold it. I've just been asked by Councilwoman Stringham. Go ahead.
For many people, this is an emotional decision. And I'm going to start out with two things. Number one, I had the opportunity to be a teacher during this time in the school districts, dealing with this issue as it hit us when we first became known as a pandemic. I have had the opportunity of teaching both online and in schools. I had the opportunity of watching how this has affected our students in the high school and experiencing some of what's been in the junior high as well as in the elementary schools for students and children and for teachers. Likewise, I've had to work with the parents as they have children who have struggled, with both mental, emotional, and with their schoolwork, and not be able to handle what's going on. This is an incredibly difficult time for our county, for our nation. And one of the things that we are not teaching kids at this time, and since I can say it, I will, is civility. And it's something we need to be showing them on a daily basis. So, while I have a moment, I'm going to ask you to be kind and civil, especially to those who don't agree with you. I'm also going to ask you to recognize that everybody has their reasons for where they stand. Like all of the rest of my colleagues here, we have had thousands of emails, text messages. I don't know if anybody had the privilege of having people stop by their house, but I did. And I talked to people. And gratefully, they were able to calm down and be civil and discuss the matter with me. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a cut and dry, easy decision for anybody who is up here. Because there is more than this is just simple, wear a mask, or this is just simple, let somebody like a parent or a school decide. If it were that simple, we wouldn't be here today. So we've had to sit down and look and listen. And I'm telling you, I have slept hardly at all since literally Monday when some of the emails and stuff came in. And I have read through every email that I've been able to get through. There are so many, I haven't gotten to all of them. We're trying to respond. I had to send out an automatic response, which I know ticked a bunch of people off, but I'm sorry, that's kind of where we're at right now. I've had to answer text messages as best I can. I haven't even looked at social media because there just isn't time. And I have had phone call after phone call. I've spent days like everybody here talking to doctors, talking to nurses who've contacted us, talking to superintendents, teachers, students. We've heard all of it. And everybody here has had to look at their conscience and decide what they believe is in the best interest of the people of Salt Lake County, and most importantly, of those who are 12 and under. because that's really what we're here to decide today. Now, some of us don't like how things have gone down, and I'm not going to get into that. But what I am going to say, and what I think people need to understand, is there is something that we have in teaching called equity. And it's a term that most people don't really fully understand. The American ADA Act in our schools has really defined what that is, and the courts have defined what equity is for students, especially when we're trying to meet different needs. And so I've been looking at this very closely from multiple viewpoints, because I can tell you, I can give you every viewpoint that is in here and that is out in the community, and I actually understand where they're coming from. I can see it from both sides. I taught in schools, and I saw how not just the mask, but the masks and all of the things that we did last year did slow some of the spread better than other areas. I also saw the mental health and toll it took on teachers last year dealing with this pandemic. So when it comes right down to it, I had to look at what is the equity. And equity in ADA says that we need to give students the best education we can possibly give them and give them exactly what they need at the most minimal disruption that we possibly can. So for me, I had to decide what is the most minimal disruption right now. And that's where I'm going to vote today, is what I see as the most minimal disruption to these kids for both their health and their wellness and their mental health. And I'm sure everybody here can make that exact same claim. They're just going to analyze the data differently. So having said that, that is where I'm at right now.
Council, are there any other comments to the substitute motion by Councilman Bradley? Seeing none, I'd like a roll call vote.
Councilmember Granado,
Would you restate the substitute motion, please?
It's not my motion, it's Jim's.
The motion is simply that we table the resolution.
I'll vote yes.
Councilmember Theodore,
No.
Councilmember Bradley,
Aye.
Councilmember Snellgrove,
No.
Councilmember Bradshaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Alvord,
No.
Councilmember Winter Newton,
No.
What was her vote?
no.
Amy, was it no?
No.
No. Can you turn her mic up, please, Shaquille?
Councilmember Stringham
No.
and Councilmember DeBrey.
No. Okay, please, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, but please no applause. Okay, that substitute motion fails 6-3. It goes back to the original motion by Councilman Alvord and the second by Councilwoman Theodore on the resolution as I stated. I will now call for a roll call vote on that.
Mr. Chair, can
Yes.
we make a comment before that?
Yes, you
vote,
can. We'll
please?
turn the time over to Amy.
Thank you. First, let me apologize that I'm not there in person for this meeting. I had an out-of-town commitment prior to this meeting being scheduled, and I'm sad to not be there with my colleagues. This has been one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made in the 7 years as a county councilwoman. It's difficult because there are passionate parents on both sides who deeply love their children and want what's best. It's difficult because although we have smart, incredible health officials, there are so many unknowns. Even they admit that they don't know everything about the virus and masking effects. It's difficult because none of us has a crystal ball to see how our decisions today impact the future. I'm grateful for all of you who have emailed, called, messaged, and visited with us at our council meetings. I've listened to all of you. Half of you will be happy with my vote today, and the other half will be disappointed. To those who are disappointed, please know I do not make this decision lightly. My vote's going to be based on two things: the data and what I know about parents. To my first point, when we are in the business of public health, data-driven decisions are key. We know children under 12 have very low risk with COVID. Though the Delta variant is more contagious and more children will likely get it, the risks of COVID complications are still incredibly low for children under 12. And second, I cannot in good conscience tell a parent that government knows better than they do for their child, especially when the COVID risk to young children is low. Parents have instinct intuition, and inspiration when it comes to what is best for their children. We know some children are suffering from delayed cognitive development, mental health challenges, and other issues because of masks. And yet we also know masks help diminish the spread of the disease. Each child is unique and has different challenges. There should not be a one-size-fits-all for our kids. I believe the right solution is to allow parents to decide what is best for their child. I will be voting to overturn the mask mandate, but I still highly recommend masks for those who can. Some public health officials assert we need to mask these little ones in order to keep the spread low and reduce demands on our healthcare system. Our healthcare system is near capacity, not with young children, but with adults, many of whom are not vaccinated. I'm not going to put the burden of the community healthcare system on the backs of these little children who have very low COVID risk. I morally cannot do it. I'm grateful that the state's providing KN95 masks, a much more effective mask, to parents who want one for their child. All parents should consult their pediatrician as they determine what is best for their child this school year. We will most certainly see cases increase once children return to the classroom, and we'll continue to watch the situation closely. I stand by the recommendations the health department has provided to our local schools. I encourage those who can to please wear a mask in public spaces to help reduce the spread. I'm also hopeful that as more choose to be vaccinated, we can be in a stronger position as a community to fight this virus.
Thank you, Amy. Any other council member wish to address this issue? Ann?
It's critical that we use science and data to guide our healthcare decisions as we fight this pandemic. The constraint issued by the county health department is based on sound science supported by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the World Health Organization, and the Salt Lake County Board of Health. The guidance set forth by Dr. Dunn is narrowly focused on those in the community who cannot, at this time, receive a vaccine. When this pandemic began, we united against a common enemy, the virus. Scientists from around the world came together to study every possible treatment. Biotech and pharmaceutical companies that would normally compete with each other for patents on treatments worked together to produce vaccines. Pfizer worked with a biotech company in Germany to bring theirs to market. The NIH, the CDC, and the FDA worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to bring treatments to the public at warp speed. And who can forget the pictures that we saw of our valiant healthcare workers swathed in their personal protective equipment, yet risking their own safety and their lives, standing shoulder to shoulder to treat the people that were critically ill. Many of them the last face that a patient saw before they passed away. It's my hope that we can come together again as a community and work to make the virus the common enemy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Let's go to Dee and then Richard.
Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming out. I know some of you have been here multiple times over the weeks, and we just applaud your efforts. On August 10th, Salt Lake County Health Director Angela Dunn issued a public health order of constraint to require masks be worn in Salt Lake County schools for children under 12. As such, I will emphatically oppose such action. Government's role is not to mandate compliance for the littlest among us. That is the role of parents. Government can inform and assist, but ultimately this decision should be left up to the parents. We live in a free society. We must allow citizens to make their own decisions. The hospitalization rate of children is under 1% of all who contract the illness, as well as the overall mortality. I can promise you that I am staying informed concerning this pathogen and its evolution. As such, I will avail myself of all sources of information and make those available. I appreciate your many emails and messages. I received thousands of emails, and it is clear that this is a divisive and heated issue. My mandate as your councilwoman is not to be swayed by public opinion, but to be your representative to flesh out the issue and make the best decision that I see is appropriate. For now, the evidence does not warrant heavy-handed government intervention. Every parent has the right to choose what is best for their child. The right to choose allows the option to wear a mask. Governor Cox has made available the KN95 mask, the same mask healthcare workers and first responders wear when treating COVID patients themselves to protect themselves. Regardless of the outcome of this meeting, I request that we treat each other with respect and kindness and allow our children to start the new year with some normalcy, happiness, and positivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Let's go to Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to thank you for coming today. I appreciate your input. Over these past 2 weeks, I've received thousands of emails, hundreds of phone calls, and like Councilwoman Stringham, a few visits to my front door. Your attendance here is very much appreciated. Likewise, your civility up to this point is appreciated, and hopefully it maintains throughout this meeting. But thanks for coming. At the end of the day, I am a public servant, and I seek input from those that may agree with me, those that do not agree with me, but we live in a republic, and it's an honor to be your public servant. Thank you. Let me read this statement that I shared with the press earlier today. About 2 hours ago, I sent out a press statement with respect to my position on this issue. And as constituents, in addition to the press, I feel that you have the right to know my position firsthand. As a county council member, my first priority must always be the health and safety of the public, especially those of our children. Sadly, in Utah, one child has died from COVID since the beginning of the pandemic 18 months ago. The loss of this child or any child is tragic. However, this fact reinforces what we have known from the beginning of this pandemic, which is that children are less susceptible to the virus. In considering whether or not to support the mask mandate, I must also weigh other factors, such as the psychological harm to children in part from their reaction to mask wearing. This collateral damage from mask wearing and the lockdown has contributed to learning deficiencies, increased anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Sadly, a 72% increase in visits by children to behavioral health emergency rooms has been reported. And worst of all, we have seen a sharp increase in children's suicides since the beginning of this pandemic. I have received thousands of emails and many phone calls from parents seeking relief from the mask mandate for their children, who they say have experienced psychological and emotional trauma due to their use. They earnestly plead with me that the decision of mask usage should be left to them as parents. I agree that the decision to wear or not to wear a mask should be left to caring and loving parents who are best equipped to make the proper decision for their children's physical, psychological, and emotional health. I cannot and should not second guess a parent's judgment. Therefore, in what I believe is in the best interest of the children and my constituents, I will vote to overturn the mask mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Are there any other council members that would like to address this issue at this time? Seeing none, I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Winter Newton,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradshaw. I'm sorry, did you say that? Nay? Okay. Councilmember Snellgrove,
Yes.
Councilmember Bernardo,
No.
Councilmember Theodore,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradley,
No.
Councilmember Alvord,
Yes.
Councilmember Stringham,
Yes.
and Councilmember DeBry.
Yes. Okay, that passes 6-3. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your attendance here. Thank you for your civil nature and being good citizens and letting us take care of this very important item. We stand adjourned.
USA! Just in case.
I thought we were doing that.
I know. Just in case. Okay, I'm getting in front of the camera. He's getting me. He's getting me. We're getting in front of the camera. Do you have a IFB box for me?
Do the mic on?
Yep, got it. It's on.
I'm gonna lower this tripod down.
I can stand over here, actually, if you want.
Hold that light, please. I need a light.
Go. Yeah, hello, check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here in the Salt Lake County Council chambers where the vote just wrapped up. Of course, as you saw there live on Fox 13. Sorry, it is pretty noisy here. You can hear still probably in the background there the crowd, the overflow crowd, largely of people who were opposed to the K-6 mask mandate that was sought by the Salt Lake County Health Department. Along a 6-3 vote, we saw members of the council vote, and it was along party lines, Republicans voting to overturn the mask mandate, while we had Democrats on the council who voted to keep it in place. Councilmember Jim Bradley, just for people who may be tuning in, tried to make a substitute motion. He tried to seek a motion where they would table this. They would let it go for 30 to 40 days, then possibly come back and see if it worked, see if the mask mandate worked. That failed along party lines. The council voted, saying that they're listening to their constituents, that they do not believe that government should be stepping on the rights of parents to choose. Some members of the council, including Republican member Amy Winder-Newton, urged people to get vaccines. She did urge people to make themselves use masks where appropriate, to make that available to kids in schools. But then she ultimately said that she would be voting against the mask mandate, believing that, again, it is a parent's choice. So this was, again, a party line vote by the Salt Lake County Council. This has been one of the most contentious issues that the council has had to deal with in some time. I've been told that they have just absolutely been blitzed by constituent communications for the mask mandate, against the mask mandate. People have gotten phone calls, emails, text messages, social media comments. Some council members reported people even showing up on their doorstep to make their feelings be known. You could tell with some of the council members that this was a difficult decision to make. But again, ultimately, they voted 6-3 and made the decision to overturn the mask mandate.
Ben, if you can hear me, just one quick question. There wasn't a presence that we could see on camera of either the health department director, Dr. Angela Dunn, or the county mayor. Were they present in any form? Were they online on the Zoom call or anything?
Dr. Angela Dunn, the executive director of the Salt Lake County Health Department, who issued the mask mandate, which the law allowed her to do, was not present in the meeting, and I did not see her online. We are told that Mayor Wilson also, she was not present in the commission or the council chambers, but that she was watching the meeting online. And so, yeah, they were not here. Now, I just need to point out so people understand how this works. The legislature earlier this year did pass a law that allowed, it was the COVID-19 endgame law. It allowed local health departments to issue mandates if they wanted to, a mask mandate. But what happened was it could then be overturned by a county commission or a county council, a legislative body. The logic that the legislature used with that is that basically they wanted an elected official to be answering to this, to answer to the constituents. And as you can imagine, some in the legislature that I've talked to, happy with the way that this law has worked out. It's worked out as they designed it to.
All right, Ben Winslow, thank you for all your reporting on this. I know you have more to do today, and I look forward to seeing what comes of that. But thanks so much for helping us understand what was just happening there. For all of you at home, Salt Lake County Council just voted to overturn a mask mandate. There will be no mask mandate in schools in Salt Lake County. And thus far as we know, no mandate in public schools anywhere in the state of Utah. So we are going to return you to your regular programming. I do want to remind you, though, that you should stay tuned today because we are going to air the Field of Dreams Major League Baseball game, White Sox and Yankees playing on that wonderful ballpark that they built out of the cornfields in Iowa. And that's happening in about an hour and a half. Thanks for watching.
Coming up, from public meltdowns to physical attacks, what should you do when you're face to face with white hot rage? What you need to know to stay safe in our go-to survival guide. That's next.
As the mother of 3 Utah students, I care about what goes on in the classroom. From COVID-19 and masks in class